When it comes to tracking your health, Oura and WHOOP are some of the most popular smart devices available, and for good reason. Since neither offer the full width of functionality that you'd see on other smart devices, their more narrow focus has allowed them to really become the best at what they are designed to do, which is to monitor your sleep and recovery. So today, I want to cover 9 of the major differences between the Oura Ring and the WHOOP band to help you understand which one might be the better fit for you. And a big thanks to InsideTracker for sponsoring Connect the Watts. You can learn more about their personalized blood and DNA analysis later on in the video. Okay, so the first of the 9 differences that we'll be discussing is the price. And the Oura Ring Gen3 is priced between $299 and $549, depending on the type of finish of the ring that you choose. And it also requires an additional monthly subscription of $5.99 to continue getting and seeing most of the data that the Oura Ring collects. The WHOOP 4.0 band is actually free to get, but with a much more expensive monthly subscription that ranges from $30 if paid month to month to as low as $20 if you're able to pay for 2 years up front. And WHOOP will also send you a new replacement band whenever they upgrade their hardware, whereas you'll need to continue buying new Oura rings if you want to always have the most up-to-date model. Now, personally, for wearables like these that require a subscription, I like to evaluate them on a cost per 3-year period. As similar to smartphones, that's about how often I like to upgrade them. So for the least expensive Oura Ring, it costs $299 up front, and then an additional $216 for the 3-year subscription, making the total come to $515. For the WHOOP 4.0 band, for a 3-year membership, I would have to pay $20 per month for the first 2 years, or $480, and then for the 3rd year, I would need to pay $25 per month, or $300, making the total come to $780. So when it comes to price, even though Oura may seem a lot more expensive up front, over a 3-year period, it ends up being the more cost-effective option. The next big difference we should discuss is comfort. Now, even though I generally dislike wearing rings, I do find the Oura Ring to be fairly comfortable to wear outside of working out. Though during exercise, I prefer to take it off as it's not that comfortable or practical to wear during most workouts, especially when lifting weights. WHOOP, on the other hand, is much more comfortable for me, both in regular use and especially so during exercise. And that's one of the nice things about WHOOP is that it's just really adaptable on how it can be worn while you work out, from being placed on your wrists to your upper arm if you want to get a bigger strap. And what I've been doing lately is I've been using the new WHOOP body clothing, which allows you to wear the WHOOP within various garments like compression shorts and shirts. And this is especially useful if you want to wear the WHOOP while you're doing any sort of contact sports. So for me, WHOOP is definitely ahead on the overall comfort, but this may differ from person to person depending on your preference. So one of the biggest benefits of using a tool like Oura or WHOOP is being able to track your sleep. Now, if I had made this video a month ago, I would say that the WHOOP has far superior sleep accuracy, but Oura recently rolled out their new sleep staging beta, which is basically an initial test for their upcoming new sleep tracking algorithm. And so far, this seems to be a whole lot better and very much on par with that of WHOOP. And the one thing I do like better about Oura's sleep tracking is it seems much better about being able to detect naps or times where I may wake up briefly in the morning, only to go back to sleep for a bit, whereas sometimes that is not caught quite as well on WHOOP. However, WHOOP does a much better job than Oura at determining when I'm actually trying to go to sleep, which has a huge effect on the sleep score. With Oura, it always thinks that as soon as I lay down at night that I'm trying to sleep but can't, and so gives me a long latency or time to sleep, which negatively impacts the sleep score it gives me. And I can edit this in the morning afterwards, but it's sort of annoying to have to do this every single day, since most nights I like to go to bed an hour or 2 before I sleep and read, and WHOOP is able to detect this and does not count this time reading as me trying to sleep, thus giving me a more accurate time to sleep and overall sleep score in the morning. Now, since the general sleep tracking is pretty solid for both devices and each one does one thing better than the other, I would give them a tie in the sleep tracking category. The next difference we should discuss between Oura and WHOOP is in the daily health metrics they track and present every morning. Now, when you sleep, both Oura and WHOOP track your resting heart rate, your HRV or heart rate variability, your blood oxygen levels, your respiratory rate, and variations in your daily skin temperature. And here, both are pretty excellent, though I think each has their pros and cons. For example, I think Oura is slightly more accurate in its skin temperature readings because while they both seem to pick up similar trends for me, I did notice that when I went on a trip for Christmas to my parents' house where they have a fireplace going and it was generally pretty warm, WHOOP mistook that as my personal temperature trending upwards, whereas Oura was better able to distinguish the environment from my personal temperature. I also like how Oura uses and shows your nightly variations in blood oxygen levels to evaluate your breathing regularity throughout the night, as this can alert you to when there are more disturbances in your breathing than normal, whereas with WHOOP you only get a nightly average for your blood oxygen levels. That said, for me, I personally trust the heart rate variability or HRV values that I get from WHOOP a lot more than I do from Oura. And again, this is just based on my personal experience from somebody who's been tracking my HRV for well over 10 years now, but I feel like WHOOP is much more accurate, especially during times of higher recovery than Oura is. And if you look at the research and studies on WHOOP versus Oura on HRV tracking, it does seem that more people on average get more accurate HRV results from WHOOP than Oura. And for me personally, I am more concerned about having an accurate HRV reading than skin temperature or blood oxygen variation, but others may feel the opposite way. So Oura and WHOOP basically tie in this health metric category. So with each of these devices, you can track your behaviors and various things that happen to you to get a better sense of how all these things affect your sleep and recovery. And spoiler alert, but WHOOP just simply dominates in this category and is honestly the main reason why WHOOP has remained one of my favorite all-time wearables over the past few years. So with WHOOP, every morning it asks me to fill out a quick survey about behaviors and other factors that I've personally chosen to track. And not only does this make it quick and easy to track exactly what I want, but I can also go into more depth with it if I'd like to. And for example, if I spent time outdoors, I could also specify how many hours I spent outdoors and the first time that I went outdoors to see how those factors influence my recovery and sleep. And WHOOP does a great job showing you the effect of all these reported factors in their monthly summaries. And I can't emphasize how valuable this is because you often hear like good advice, like take a cold shower or turn off your screens before bed. And while a lot of this advice is generally good, it is much better to use it as a starting place for self-experimentation to see exactly what sort of effect these things have on you individually, because everything affects us differently and to various degrees. And you can try to track this on your own, but it can be pretty hard and it's very easy to forget. And the analysis is not something that most people will want to do. And that's why what WHOOP has developed with this journal is something that I find so incredibly valuable. Now, Oura does sort of offer a watered down version of this, but right now it's simply not anywhere near as good. You can tag behaviors, but there are a lot less to choose from, and there's no ability to record them in more depth like you can with WHOOP. You also don't get any reminders to do this, and you actually have to go back to the previous day to add tags for that day, and then you also have to remember which behaviors you're currently trying to track, rather than having the ones displayed for you that you've chosen. So in its current state, WHOOP wins the behavioral tracking category by a mile. Now, when it comes to behavior tracking and improving your health and longevity, then there's no better way to understand what will work for you personally than to have your blood and DNA analyzed, which is exactly what today's sponsor, InsideTracker, are experts at. InsideTracker was created by experts in aging, genetics, and biometric data from Harvard, Tufts, and MIT. InsideTracker provides personalized health analysis and clear recommendations, plus an action plan on how to live healthier longer. InsideTracker can also calculate your biological age and the rate at which you're aging compared to your chronological age, as well as ways to lower your biological age. And the thing I love the most about about InsideTracker is that after I took the test and got all of my data, they gave me personal recommendations on things that I could do to optimize my health, like changes in my food, my supplementation, and exercise, many of which I am now doing and tracking with WHOOP and Oura. And you can use your HSA, HRA, and FSA to buy any InsideTracker plan, and for a limited time, you can get 20% off the entire InsideTracker store by signing up with the link I have in the video description below. All right, so both Oura and WHOOP take all of the data they get from your sleep, HRV, and health and activity metrics to give you 3 daily scores to help give you some guidance on how to take on your day. One for sleep, one for recovery or readiness, and one for activity. In terms of the sleep score, both Oura and WHOOP do a decent job of adjusting for total sleep, sleep timing, latency, and other factors to give you an overall score. But for me, I personally trust Oura's sleep score a bit more because WHOOP continues to insist that I need an average of 8 hours of sleep per night, and often even more because of the sleep debt that they calculate in. But even though the average person needs 8 hours of sleep, everybody is different, and I recover and feel good with quite a bit less sleep than that. Usually 6 to 7 hours feels very solid for me, and because of that, WHOOP always says that my sleep is poor. Oura's sleep score does not place such a heavy emphasis on overall sleep time, but much more on sleep quality and timing, which I feel is a more accurate reflection, at least for me. And though while I trust Oura's sleep score more, when it comes to activity and recovery, I feel like WHOOP does a much better and more accurate job. For recovery, both take into account HRV, resting heart rate, sleep, and more, but WHOOP uses your HRV score a lot more heavily to determine your recovery, which I like, whereas I believe that to be less of a factor in Oura's recovery score, as Oura's score pretty much stays around the same every day, at least for me, and so it gives me less usable insight as how I may want to adjust my workouts that I have planned. And in terms of activity, WHOOP gives you a strain score, which is based both on the intensity and the duration of your efforts, and generally the amount of strain suggested varies a lot based on your recovery score. And while strain can be a bit confusing as it can be hard to tell how much strain any given activity will give you, I do find it to be a useful tool to look back on and compare how well I'm lining up my strain values with my recovery scores, and then make adjustments from there. Oura, on the other hand, just uses calories for activity, which I think is less useful, and the amount of calories that they suggest rarely adjusts depending on your recovery, and even when it does, not by much, so I don't find it very useful. So overall, even though I trust Oura's overall sleep score more, WHOOP's better recovery and strain score has it ahead for me in this category. Now, both Oura and WHOOP have a fairly decent battery life. Oura claims to last 7 days, but from my experience, I have found it to usually last around 5 days before needing to be charged, and the charging time usually takes between 60 and 80 minutes. WHOOP claims to last 4 to 5 days, but I usually find that it lasts around 3 days, and the way that WHOOP works is that you slide on a battery pack so that you can charge it without having to take the WHOOP band off and lose any data. And even though I like the way WHOOP works with this battery pack system, the Oura Ring does last quite a bit longer, so I'm gonna have to give this category to Oura. Now, having an alarm clock may be a small category and may or may not be important to you, but Oura does not have an alarm, whereas WHOOP does have a haptic alarm which can vibrate you awake without disturbing your partner. And this alarm can be set to wake you up at a specific time, or you can choose it to wake you up at a more optimal time based on your sleep needs and cycles. So of course, WHOOP easily comes out ahead here. And finally, we have activity and workout tracking. So with both the Oura Ring Gen3 and WHOOP 4.0, you can track your heart rate during exercise, and both can also auto-detect when you have exercised, so you don't have to actually start the workout on the device beforehand. And while both do a good job of general activity tracking, like walking and moving throughout your day, WHOOP comes out significantly ahead when it comes to workout tracking for a variety of reasons. The biggest of which are, one, it's comfortable to wear. The Oura Ring feels okay for some exercise like walking and running, but if you have to hold on to anything with your hands, whether you're rowing or lifting weights, you're definitely going to want to take it off, both because it's uncomfortable and because not doing so could damage the ring itself. WHOOP, on the other hand, can sit out of the way on your wrist, your upper arm, or if you have the WHOOP body clothes tucked away underneath your shirt or shorts. WHOOP is also a lot more accurate during exercise. Now, both Oura and WHOOP have very accurate heart rate tracking for everyday regular use, but Oura seems to struggle with its accuracy should you wear it during workouts. WHOOP, on the other hand, does a much better job in most scenarios. And on top of that, WHOOP can also broadcast your heart rate to other devices. So if you ride a Peloton bike or a Concept 2 rower, or use really any sort of device where you'd like to pair your heart rate, you can do that with the WHOOP band. Oura, on the other hand, is not able to broadcast your heart rate to other devices. So when it comes to activity and workout tracking, WHOOP is definitely the more preferable choice. And as you can see, when compared side by side, WHOOP comes out ahead in a lot more categories than the Oura Ring. And personally, if I had to choose one over the other, right now I would go with WHOOP, primarily because of the behavior tracking, because that is really what I find the most useful. Now, that's not to say that I'd suggest WHOOP over Oura for everybody. In fact, if you are somebody who's less interested in tracking workouts and really just want a device that can accurately track your sleep and your health data, then Oura may be the better way to go, especially since it's significantly cheaper. But if you're an athlete or somebody who likes to see how various behaviors affect your recovery, then I feel like WHOOP is going to be the option you're going to want, even though it is more expensive. Now, let me know what you think in the comments below. Are you team Oura or are you team WHOOP? This is Colin with Connect the Watts. Appreciate you being here as always, and I'll see you next time.